Given Russia's limited offensive progress and resource constraints, Russia forming a buffer zone is unrealistic and will take many years, if it happens at all. Ukrainian military and political observer Oleksand Kovalenko shared his analysis. The length of the controlled border between Ukraine and Russia in Chernihiv, Sumy and Kharkiv regions is currently about 860 kilometers, Kovalenko points out. If a buffer zone with a depth of 20 kilometers were to be established along this entire stretch, it would cover an area exceeding 17,000 square kilometers. To put this into perspective, throughout the entire year of 2024, the invading Russian forces managed to seize just over 3,200 square kilometers of Ukrainian territory. In the almost half of 2025 completed so far, they have captured 1,015 square kilometers. The observer raises the critical question: how many years will it take the Russians to form this so-called buffer zone? Especially when factoring in not only these numbers but also the declining offensive capabilities of Russian forces and their resource concentration in other directions. Kovalenko further emphasizes the stalled progress of Russian offensives. In May 2024, they launched an attack in northern Kharkiv, but over the course of a year, they have been unable to expand their control significantly in the Vovchansk and Hlybok areas. While acknowledging the ongoing threat, Kovalenko notes, yes, they will continue to terrorize Sumy, Kharkiv, and border towns with drone strikes, artillery, and missiles. Yes, they will attempt incursions and sabotage in the border zone, but they simply do not have the potential to realize these grandiose plans, not to mention the full capture of Sumy region or Sumy city itself. So the Russian military is powerless to fulfill another of Putin's desires. Recall Russian President Vladimir Putin claimed on May the 22nd that he ordered the military to begin creating a security buffer zone along the border with Ukraine, Russian state media outlets reported. The comments come a day after Putin made his first known visit to Russia's Kherson Oblast, a border region where Ukrainian forces launched an incursion last summer. While the Kremlin claims to have fully liberated the territory, Ukraine says operations are ongoing in Kherson. I have already said that a decision has been made to create the necessary security buffer zone along the border, Putin said in a video conference with government officials. Our armed forces are currently solving this problem. Putin said the zone would be along the border of Kursk, Bryansk and Belgorod oblasts. Ukraine's foreign ministry responded to the statement later in the day, saying Putin's remarks are further evidence that Russia is not meaningfully interested in peace. The Ukrainian armed forces have successfully struck a concentration of military equipment and personnel of the Russian army in Lvov, Kursk Oblast. Among the occupiers, the enemy counts its losses. As reported by Russian Z propagandists, the positions of the Russian army were located in the area of the Rosneft gas station at the exit from Lvov. Probably the occupiers were in the building of the KAMAZ spare parts store located nearby. According to some Z-War correspondents, there were only 3 flights. According to them, the Ukrainian armed forces used some powerful missiles. Other propagandists report that the attack was carried out beforehand from the HIMARS MLRS. Local publics write that the city was very noisy. The site of the attack is currently cordoned off by Russian military and operational services. The exact number of liquidated occupiers is still unknown. The General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine has not commented on this information at the moment. 3 strikes were carried out on the concentration of equipment and personnel with intervals of 5 to 7 minutes. The exact number of Russian military casualties and injuries remains unknown. The Okal telegram channel Pepel Kursk states, At the same time, it was reported that Russian civilians were also injured and infrastructure near the impact site sustained damage. Ukraine regularly strikes military targets within Russia as Moscow continues to wage its war against Ukraine. Recall, President Vladimir Putin has visited Kursk for the first time since his troops ejected Ukrainian forces from the Russian city. The Russian president met with volunteer organizations and visited a nuclear power plant in the region, the Kremlin said. Putin said late last month that his forces had ejected Ukrainian troops from the Kursk region, which ended the largest incursion into Russian territory since the Second World War. Putin said during his visit that Ukrainian forces were still trying to move toward the Russian border. He also ordered an increase in the number of demining units in Kursk, so displaced residents can return home. Kiev poured precious resources into holding onto its territory in Kursk during its months-long incursion, with the view of using it as a key bargaining chip in any peace talks. Such dialogue did not materialize until last week, when teams from Kiev and Moscow met in person in Turkey to begin discussing an end to the war. After Russia claimed to have retaken control of Kursk in April, Kiev insisted its troops are fiercely battling to preserve their foothold in the territory. Last week, Ukraine said it is still pursuing the ground war inside Russia.
Ukrainian military intelligence has released another intercepted phone call in which a Russian commander is heard ordering his troops to open fire on fellow Russian soldier. In the recording, the commander is heard saying, "He will open his mouth at home, but here let him shut his mouth and follow orders. If he refuses completely, then shoot him in the arm, in the leg. Neutralize him. Did you hear what I just told you?" it adds. The intercepted communication was published by the I Want to Live. According to Kiev Post, in the recording the person also used the term zeroed out, a term used in Russian military slang to refer to the killing or crippling of their own comrades. The I Want to Live initiative, in its Telegram update, suggested the incident as part of a broader pattern of internal repression within the Russian military. Any manifestation of adequacy is considered disobedience and is punishable by execution, the project alleged. The project also mocked the Russian military for openly broadcasting the order via radio, the reason for its interception by the Ukrainian military, suggesting to potential Russian deserters that Moscow's military command has no regard for their well-being. An order to reset a fellow serviceman by a Russian commander in the open air without registration or SMS. If anyone still thinks that the Russian armed forces are somehow hiding this, then here is another proof of the opposite, the update says. The I Want to Live project was launched in September 2022. Its goal is to help willing Russian servicemen safely surrender to Ukrainian captivity and save their lives. In case of surrender, the project guarantees detention in accordance with the Geneva Conventions. In addition, such Russians are also guaranteed that they will not be exchanged or returned to the Russian Federation if they wish. If a Russian registers with I Want to Live in advance, the Ukrainian side registers him as having been captured in combat, meaning that he receives payments and status in Russia.